Okay, well, welcome to our SIG HPC Education Chapter webinar. I'm Steve Gordon. I'm currently the Secretary Treasurer. Just a couple of things before we get started with today's speaker. Our next webinar will be on March 8th at noon Eastern Time. And Alan Chalker from the Ohio Supercomputer Center will talk about the Awesome Modeling Leadership Workshop. And this is a workshop given to industry leaders to try to make sure they understand the importance of high performance computing to doing to making them competitive in terms of a variety of manufacturing and other kinds of applications. So I'll be posting the links to that on the chapter website and send out an email about it as the time draws nearer. And then a reminder about connecting to the chat application. If you're watching live today, I'll put this up at the end of the talk as well, but this is the link, and this link is also on the chapter website. So if you miss it now, if you go to sighpeducation.acm.org, there's also a link under the webinars. So you sign in here with your name in parentheses and no passwords. We'll probably hold questions till the end of the broadcast, but I'll be watching the chat application for questions as we go along. So let me oops. So let me now introduce our speaker for today, and that's Professor Ken Powell from the University of Michigan, and he's going to talk about the a PhD program there in high performance computing. So Ken, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thanks very much, and good afternoon, everyone, or good morning, depending on where you are. I'm actually going to talk about 3 degree programs, and this, I think, will be fairly brief, but we have 3 particular degree programs associated with computational discovery, scientific computing, and data science that I'm going to talk about. Now, I know org charts are really boring, but I have to explain a little bit about how we're organized here at University of Michigan to just put this in some context. So we, like pretty much most universities, we have a bunch of schools and colleges, like the big 3 being the College of Engineering, the Medical School, and the College of Literature, Science, and the Arts, but a lot of smaller schools like Natural Resources, Public Health, Nursing, you name it. Probably a broader number of colleges than most universities, just because University of Michigan is pretty big. But we also have a College of Graduate Studies called Rackham Graduate School that spans all the PhD granting departments. And that can be useful when you're trying to put in place a program that you want to draw students from different departments in different colleges, because it cuts through some of the red tape. So the 3 programs I'm going to talk about are really implemented through the Rackham Graduate School. Now, to complicate things a little further, when we have research that spans a lot of departments, that's usually done through a kind of an institute. Just sort of a loosely, glued together group of researchers working on kind of similar problems. So the 2 institutes I'm going to talk about that are involved in these 3 degree programs are MICDE, which is the Michigan Institute for Computational Discovery and Engineering, and MIDAS, which is very new, Michigan Institute for Data Science. And I'll talk about these 3 degree programs. So first, MICDE and MIDAS are 2 institutes, so collections of researchers who have common themes. And the MICDE is about computational science, and it's mostly comprised of engineering faculty members from the various engineering departments and science faculty members from literature, science, and arts. But there are also people from the medical school and a lot of the other schools involved. Our brand new institute is the Institute for Data Science, and that draws from a number of places, basically people working with big data. These are organized under our Advanced Research Computing organization, which is in the Office of Research at the University of Michigan. And besides the 2 institutes there's also some technology services, so they run the cluster computing and so on for campus, and some consulting services, so particularly around statistics and data. If people want to, graduate students or faculty want to figure out how to work on a certain problem or look at a certain amount of data, those consulting services are available for free if you're not using them too heavily, but you can also charge them to a grant if you start to really need some heavy-duty consulting. The technology service, like the cluster computing, is mostly a pay-for-use kind of service. So you rent in a certain number of cores per month for as long as you want. And the cluster is quite large, so you can rent 1,000 or more, up a couple thousand cores at a time if that's your choice. So the first degree program I'm going to talk about is the one in data science. And the data science certificate comes out of this Michigan Institute for Data Science. And as I mentioned, the Michigan Institute for Data Science is pretty broad. We have people from a lot of college of engineering people like computer science, IOE, but also people in the Institute for Social Research, which does a lot of public polling, and things like the Consumer Confidence Index come out of there. So ISR has been around a long time. But there are people in bioinformatics, for example, and space sciences and astronomy and math, and in the med school. Also our School of Information. Used to be School of Information and Library Science, now called School of Information, and there's some computer science faculty and big data faculty in the School of Information, so they play a pretty big role in this data science center. But the idea behind the data science certificate is that they want students who show that they have some background in algorithms and applications, like basically understanding core data science principles, and in data management, basic protocols for data management, for processing data, computing on data, extracting information from data, and on analysis methods. So they want students to have some hands-on experience with modeling tools. In our College of Graduate Studies, what a certificate is a fairly lightweight way to show some proficiency at something. It's not a degree. So someone's already pursuing a master's or a PhD and says, well, I'd like to show that I know something about data science, so I'm going to work on a data science certificate. And in order to get the data science certificate, as I say, it's open to all grad students at the university. They can be in any PhD, well, they can be in any department in the university, and if they want to look at this. Now, what they need to do is take 9 graduate credits in those 3 areas, the algorithms and applications, the data management, and the analysis methods. So that's roughly 3 classes. And then in addition to that, they do a 3-credit practicum of some type. So it might be an internship, it might be a professional project. If they're in industry while they're pursuing their degree, it might be something they're doing at work. If they're in the PhD program, a lot of times it's associated with their PhD research or is their PhD research. And then there's some smaller things with it. There are some seminar series that the Data Science Institute runs, and so students are expected to attend a certain number of those. But basically, for a student who's already pursuing a master's or a PhD, this might sound like a lot that they need to do 12 extra credits. That's at least 1 semester or 2 semesters often in graduate school. But it's actually not quite as heavy a load as it sounds. For one thing, many of these students are already interested in this field, so they're planning on doing some of those courses anyways. And for another thing, our College of Graduate Studies has a double counting rule where if students are doing a certificate, a couple of the classes they take, up to 2, can count both towards their certificate and towards their degree. So for many students, particularly ones who are doing data science related research, they really are only adding 1 or 2 courses to their course of study to be able to get the data science certificate. So what the Data Science Institute does is basically sets on its website a bunch of plans of how students in a certain field might do the data science certificate. For example, a math student might take a statistics course and a computer science course, do a project on big data analytics, take a biostats course, a numerical methods course, and so on. So they set out these example course plans that students, of course, never follow. Students always pick other courses. But what they do then is try to keep a list of courses that can be used for these various different themes for the analysis methods and for the methods, for the analysis, and so on. And of course, at a place like University of Michigan, keeping a list of courses is an impossible task. As soon as you start making it, it's out of date, like Albert's Bridge, painting Albert's Bridge. But just to give you an idea, because I know these course numbers don't mean anything to you, the kinds of classes students might take are things in database management systems, applied data analysis, machine learning, that's in the computer science department. Our math department's got some great courses like in numerical linear algebra. Stats department has courses in data mining. There are courses in data mining in several different departments. So basically the students can kind of look at this big potpourri of classes and pick ones that make sense for them. set up a plan to get their certificate, and that gets signed off on by an administrator and a prof, and they get the certificate. Now, the other 2 degree programs I'm going to talk about, one is a certificate, one's a PhD, and they're inside our Institute for Computational Discovery and Engineering. Again, this mostly formed out of engineering and literature science and arts, the science faculty in literature science and arts, but now draws from a broader pool of faculty and students. So as I said, there are 2 programs. One is a certificate in computational discovery and engineering, and that's been around for 4 or 5 years. And it's much like the certificate I explained about it, for data science. It's just, its thrust is more about scientific computing. Again, it's open to all master's and PhD students at the university, and it's considered relatively lightweight. Typically, students don't have to do a whole lot of courses to get that certificate. The other one's interesting. It's something that's kind of unique to Michigan, and I think unique at Michigan. It's a PhD program, and it offers the opportunity for much deeper specialization in computational science. And what is really nice about it is at the end of the day, when the students get their PhD, say they're in my field in aerospace engineering, their diploma actually reads Doctor of Philosophy in Aerospace Engineering and Scientific Computing. So the Computational Discovery Certificate works much like the Data Science Certificate. Students need nine graduate credit hours in approved classes, and basically the 2 topic areas are methodology in scientific computing and application of scientific computing. And so any course that's got substantial computational content is pretty much allowed to count towards one of these categories. And as I mentioned, I was wrong about it being 2 courses. One of the courses can be double counted with if it's their PhD or their master's. Again, there's some attendance requirement at graduate symposia, and then there's a practical experience that, again, can be done through their research or through an internship or through a multidisciplinary design project. I'll say a little bit more about that. And that non-credit experience can also be double counted with the degree. In a pinch, if a student can satisfy this by taking a course, as long as the course has a strong project theme to it. I mentioned that there are we have a group that runs multidisciplinary design projects. So these span several departments. A group of students and faculty get together to work on a specific project, and a lot of those have been more experimentally oriented. But in the last few years, students have been doing some of these projects that are modeling and simulation based in design and manufacturing, and so several of the students have used those to count for their practicum. So the final degree program is this PhD program in scientific computing. And when we set it up, we set this up quite a while ago. I was involved in formulating it back in the late 80s. So it's been around for almost 30 years here at the university. And when we set it up, we said it was kind of in the early days of people doing computational simulations, that being a major part of their work, before people really talked about computation as being a third pillar of science. So what we said was, for someone to be really good at computational fluid mechanics, computational structural mechanics, whatever, they really need 3 things under their belt. First, they need to know the problem they're solving really well. So they really have to have a strong background in the physics of the problem they're solving. Second, they need to know something about numerical analysis and the algorithms they'll be using to tackle the problem computationally. And third, they need to know something about the hardware they'll be running on and the kinds of software they'll be writing. So what we said is, first off, the student needs to have a home department. They do not just get a PhD in scientific computing. That doesn't, to us, that doesn't make sense. They need to have a home department. So they're already in a PhD department at the university and are admitted into that department, independent of this scientific computing program. And so again, those departments could be, it could be the math department, could be the physics department, could be chemistry, it could be any of the engineering departments, so on. So in addition to making their home program happy that they've met all the requirements of their home program, on top of that, they need to meet the requirements of the PhD in scientific computing, which means 3 courses in methods and 3 courses in some combination of computer science and computing applications. And we expect those computing applications to be outside their home department. Typically, they're thesis topic is very computational in nature, and their doctoral committee reflects their interest in scientific computing. So at least a couple of faculty members are typically members of MICDE. And in addition, however they do their doctoral prelim in their department, we expect that there's some numerical or computational content in that one of the prelim questions. And as I mentioned before, at the end of the day, their PhD reads PhD in, say, astrophysics and scientific computing. Just to give you an idea of kind of the size of these programs, the PhD, as I mentioned, has been around a while. We established it in 1989, and the first graduate came out of the program in 1992. So we've had 90 students graduate, and those students, it's interesting, they've come from 20 different departments across 5 colleges at the university. The obvious ones are literature, science, arts, engineering, and medicine. But we've had students in pharmacy, and we have students in School of Public Health, School of Natural Resources, and even in the business school, people working with data in the business school. An interesting thing that's happened is there's been an uptick in interest in this program in the last few years. So whereas since the program started, we were graduating 4 or 5 PhDs per year, now we're graduating more like 10 per year, and we currently have 50 students enrolled. And the lines between data science and scientific computing, as I'm sure you all know, are getting a little blurred. And since there isn't really a PhD in data science, what we're seeing is that a number of students who are doing what you might think of mostly as data science are using the scientific computing PhD program to have their degree read in scientific computing, really to do data science. So we're starting to interpret what we mean by methods classes more broadly. It used to be predominantly numerical methods for solving PDEs, because that's what most of our students were doing, to come some kind of simulation work. But now we're allowing methods classes that have more to do with working with big data, some big statistical methods classes, Markov chain things, and things like that. The MICDE certificate is newer. These numbers are approximate because I couldn't track them down at the last minute, but it's been around 4 or 5 years with about 20 graduates, and there's 60 students currently enrolled in the program. And again, it's pretty broad. There are 5 colleges represented for that. The data science certificate is brand new, so only 2 people have graduated, but again, there's a lot of interest with 45 students enrolled. And what we've been doing to kind of keep the interest up in the program and inform students about that these are available, because it's not obvious to them, and these are typically things they do once they're already here. So they don't apply to these from outside the university. They apply once they're already in a PhD granting program or a master's granting program if they're doing a certificate. So twice a year we run info sessions that go through some slides much like I just did, but with some added ones basically talking about what is data science, what's computational discovery, what's scientific computing, and so on. Why would you want to do this? But I took those out for your sake because you guys all know that. So we run these info sessions twice a year. We run on North Campus and one on Central Campus each semester to tell them about the programs. And as I mentioned, there's really been a lot of growth in the last couple of years, particularly in the PhD program. So at this point, what I'll do is I'm happy to take any questions people have about maybe how something like this might work on your campus, or how we made it work on this campus, anything like that.
Okay, so let's open it up for questions. I should... Oh, I closed my PowerPoint. Hold on a second. I'll put that website up again. Give me a second to get that up. So while we're waiting, Ken, you've noticed that there's an uptick in the last few years. Has recruiting to these programs been a problem, or there's been pretty steady over the years, or how would you characterize it? It's
been kind of slowly perking along, and it's like at any big organization, getting the news out is difficult. So what we had was we'd have like pockets in departments where they knew about the program, and so we'd graduate a lot of aerospace engineers and nuclear engineers and other departments, math, where people had been involved in setting the program up. But now we've gotten a little better at we have a better website. We've gotten a little better at kind of getting out there and telling people about the program. So I think that combined with the fact that more students are doing this kind of research and that there's been some money put into it. We were doing it basically on no budget at all for a while, so money helped a little too in terms of the data science and MICDE institutes getting some money.
Yeah. That's interesting because I know working with a lot of universities that have computational science programs, getting students to understand what it is and getting them into the programs is always a chore, it seems.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Are there, I posted, can you see my slide, by the way?
Yes.
Okay, so if you do have questions, please log into the chat area and post your question there. I'm watching that so far. I don't have any, but we'll wait a few more minutes since there's a time delay associated with the broadcast. What relative to your students, are you finding that they're in high demand on the job market?
Yeah, that's a good question. Absolutely. And one interesting statistic is that the Krell Institute has this computational science graduate fellowship that goes towards, it's really geared towards students who want to ultimately work in the national labs, like the NNSA labs. And Michigan's been pretty dominant there. We, as a matter of fact, and every student who's gotten that fellowship has been in the scientific computing PhD program. It turns out that our requirements for the scientific computing PhD program are very close to the requirements for that fellowship. So we've had a lot of students be rewarded that way and have a lot of their doctoral work funded through that fellowship. But yeah, our students have gone out into faculty positions and into national lab positions and into industry. And I don't think, the certificate I think is a little bit of help, but I think the PhD program in particular, those students typically are in pretty high demand.
Hey, you should probably stop sharing because you're just broadcasting me twice.
Oh, okay. Sorry. You don't want me to do that, huh?
Well, that's okay, but I just well, I don't see any further questions. I don't think that Krell thing still exists, right? That went out of existence a couple years ago. Or
I think I just saw the ad for it for February, right? Isn't it? Unless I'm 1 year behind. It certainly happened last year. They changed who was running it at some point.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, I'll also point out that I help run the Blue Waters Graduate Fellowship Program, and that does the deadline of this Friday.
Right.
So we're receiving, and we have had several Michigan students. In fact, 2 of the current fellows are from the University of Michigan.
Right.
And we've had others in the past. So.
Right.
Let's wait 1 more minute to see if anyone posts any questions to the chat.
Sounds good.
So, do you typically teach any of the courses in the curriculum, or just ones that relate to your particular specialty?
Yeah, it's interesting. I've taught computational fluid dynamics over the years. Lately, I've been more focused on my undergrad teaching. So, but I'll probably get involved. We have some jointly taught courses that teach high performance computing, and I'm getting kind of dragged into that whether I want to or not. So I may be doing some of that.
Okay, well, I don't want to hold you up. There are no further questions, so I just a note that I will edit the beginning of this to get off the time when we were just getting settled, and I will repost the edited video on YouTube. I'll send you a link to that in case you want to refer others to it at some point. So let me thank you again for being a speaker.
Yeah, sure, my pleasure. Thanks for asking.
And for those that are listening, we'll send out a link. The link to the final video, if you want to refer it to someone else, will be on the SIG HPC Education website sometime in the next few days. So thank you again, Ken, and for everybody else, have a good day.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Bye.